We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Also, if you want to donate to this channel, the only way we get revenue to keep the lights on, hit that $sign with your comment, and we'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. This show that we're going to be doing this afternoon on November 6th has been a struggle. Not because we have a whole bunch of content. That's not the problem. I'm struggling with how to deliver the information. The little general, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, my wife of 21 years. She knows I'm struggling. Although she doesn't understand all the nuances and what I go through, she understands the information. She understands the different avenues of where we get our information. Jeff Olson is in the house. A very, very, very good friend of mine. very good friend of mine, even though he's an evil Badger. Very good friend of mine. Jeff Olson, Terry Knorr, Daniel Leonard, the Smacks. Jeff Olson, one of the people that knew at the time how I struggled to deliver the Tracy Claeys was going to get fired and PJ Fleck was the number one target when nobody had that information on December 5th, 2016. Jeff Olson knows how I struggled with the USC story because I kept Jeff Olson and Terry Norton, Daniel Leonard as updated as possible with our friendship. I've told them stuff that nobody else knows, right? But I struggled in sometimes figuring out a way to get you the information, but I want to harvest the field again. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but yet this is what we do at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. So today is a tough one because I want to put forward a certain message. Kind of like my first tweet I put out there on March 31st, 2022 that USC called the Big Ten. And then I went on and talked about it and we gathered all these type of documents and then the Los Angeles Times did an article on us. But at the start of that story, it was a struggle to figure out what I should do, what I shouldn't do. Am I going to cross the line here? Am I not even giving enough information it's not even worthwhile? What am I even doing? The Colorado thing, that was the Big 12, Pac-12, that was easier. We had so much information. Now it's just a way to deliver it in the Holy Smokes Theater. So we're going to talk about, and it's going to be real general at this point in time. That's why it's always important to catch our live shows. If you can't catch it live, that's fine, but check in on them. Because the dots start to get connected, just like in the Colorado Big 12, Pac-12 story, just like the USC story, just like all the stories that we cover and we break at times here at Peek Around the Corner. We talked, it was early October, first week in October. We talked about Greg Sankey walking into the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first time. Going into a VIP box, sitting next to the VIP box that Peter Collins was sitting in. Peter Collins, the Board of Trustees of Florida State. And then after we announced, some articles have come out and the Clemson stuff has come out, and now we have Clemson at the center of the stage with Florida State, and there's a reason why we announced the first week of October that Greg Sankey has gone into the Holy Smokes Theater. This is going to be the main story I talk about today on this live show. It was going to be the only story I talked about on this live show. I knew I was going to talk about it on Monday during this weekend. I said, how am I going to deliver this information? And then last night, we had a live show. Yesterday afternoon, we talked a lot of college football, the results of what happened, the conference races. We went through our pick. We talked college football. And we talked a little bit about the Michigan scandal. So I had the floor clean, right? We were only going to talk about the Holy Smokes Theater in November 6th. But we're going to have to start this show talking about Stalions, Central Michigan, because that news broke about 30 minutes ago. There was an ESPN article. So we're going to talk about Stalions once again today. We did an episode on it. We did an episode earlier today. Go catch it, episode 325, where we here at Peek Around the Corner, we are in an agreement with Pete Thamel and others. We don't think there's going to be any suspension today or tomorrow, and we talked about the reasons why. Go check episode 325 out if you haven't yet. So I wasn't going to talk about Michigan Stallions at all in this live show. But we're going to start with that, and then we're going to get inside the ACC theater. The title of this live show is The SEC is Getting Aggressive. Now you say, well, they're not getting... No one's reporting on this, Greg. No one's saying anything. No one's saying anything. I get it. No, I get it. I get it. Greg does not know what he's talking about. I get it. I get it. I'm just letting you know. The SEC, Greg Sankey, is not being a wallflower on this. Take it how you want. We're going to get more into it. That's our main story. First of all, we're going to talk about CMU, Central Michigan, Chippewas, Stallions, and what is going on. What is going on? First of all, I want to thank everybody who's come in early today. In the show, the Walking Geek is in the house. Go Ducky. The story keeps getting better and better. K-Doo's in the house. Kirk Bender's in the house. Hi, Greg. Crazy day today. Grateful Trojan. I've been patiently waiting. A live show today. Thanks for coming on in, Trojan. I appreciate it. The Golden Gophers. Well, how you, Jim Harbaugh? As the special teams coach. Thanks, Kyle, for coming on in. I appreciate it. Corey's in the house. The Terrapin's in the house. Bill G's in the house. Laura Weiss, Texas Tech Red Raider, is in the house. Daniel's in the house. Anthony Carlson. Oh, yeah, the Macho Man, Michigan State fan, is in the house. Bob Husley. Ryan Brooks. Joe Z. CFB Plus, who's on first? Thanks to Minnesota Man. Thank you for coming on in. Who's on first? I appreciate it. I very much appreciate it. West Virginia guy is in the house. Immaculate. So what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Thank you for everybody coming on in the house. I appreciate it. Matt is in the house. Alan Tran is in the house. Go Black 45 is in the house. I appreciate you all for coming in to Peek Around the Corner. So let's first tackle. Oh boy. The NCAA joins the Central Michigan investigation of sideline staffer. Now I know a lot of people go, Greg, God, we're doing this again. Greg, I know you go where the story goes, but come on. You know what? Today is the first day I agree with you. We weren't going to do this. We dropped an episode. There was some information, but this says a lot. This says a lot. So the NCAA joins Central Michigan investigation of a sideline staffer. The NCAA has joined Central Michigan investigating a man who resembles former Michigan staff member Connor Stalions, who appeared on the Chippewa sideline in team-issued gear for the September 1st season opener at Michigan State. Athletic Director Amy Folin, in a statement to ESPN, confirmed that Central Michigan continues its review of the matter in cooperation with the NCAA. So the NCAA is involved now, which is going to take a long time. Central Michigan's not going to say a word now. We were hoping for something last week, right? I was. But the NCAA is involved, and to me, now I don't know this for sure. This is speculation on my part, but that seems to be an indication, a good indication, that there's something there, and it's linked up to the other allegations of in-person scouting, Michigan's in-person scouting. Folin, the athletic director, announced last Tuesday that Central Michigan would investigate the man after receiving photos of him one day earlier. Stalions, at the center of the NCAA's investigation into Michigan for off-campus scouting and signal stealing, resigned from his position Friday after initially being suspended with pay pending the outcome of the investigation. The man in the images wore the same attire as the Central Michigan coaches, how convenient, and the other sideline personnel, as well as "I wear my sunglasses at night," the game at Spartan Stadium. Stalions appeared on the Michigan sideline September 2nd for the Wolverines opener against East Carolina. Chippewa's coach Jim McElwain said last week that Stalions' name did not appear on any list of credentials for the Michigan State game. According to the NCAA rules, the team area during games includes a maximum of 50 non-squad members directly involved in the game. You cannot get a bench pass. You can't get a bench pass unless you're directly involved in the game. Let me repeat that. From 20 to 20 yard line. You cannot be a former football player, alumni, a media member, a donor, somebody representing a great, fantastic charity. You've got to be at the corners of the sidelines. You got to be tucked in between the corner and the touchdown. That corners on both sides. But inside the 20s, the bench pass, you have to be directly involved in the game. You got to be a medical person. Whatever. Those not in full uniform wear special credentials assigned to the team area that are numbered 1 through number 50. The NCAA rules prohibit any other credentials in the team area. The team area between the 20-yard lines, the bench. There is forms out there. I don't have it on this show. Go Google it. You can see it everywhere. There is a form in which the person being assigned to the bench pass gets signed by the coach and by the athletic director. So McElwain must have signed something to some sheet of paper. Same with the athletic director, and the person's name must not be Connor Stalions on the sheet of paper because the head coach has already said that in public, that the name Connor Stalions doesn't show up anywhere. We obviously are aware of a picture floating around with the sign stealer guy. McElwain said October 31st. Our people are doing everything they can to get to the bottom of it. We were totally unaware of it. I certainly don't condone it in any way, shape, or form. I do know that his name was on none of the passes that were given out, Now we just keep tracing it back and to try to figure it out. And now again, this is my speculation. I want to repeat. This is my speculation. I think when they traced it back, they figured it out, and they got a hold of the NCAA immediately. That's my speculation. The NCAA's involvement likely will extend the timeline for the investigative process and any potential discipline. Its findings could be included in a larger notice of allegations for Michigan, which has yet to be sent. The NCAA eventually, when they can get their arms around, which I believe is a massive, elaborate, in-person scouting scheme / scandal, then they're going to send the whole ball of wax, the whole notice of allegations to the University of Michigan. And then Michigan will have 90 days after they receive those allegations to establish their position, because they're going to be notified of the allegations. They're going to get some evidence. But the Big Ten don't work that way. And again, I would ask for you to watch episode 325 of earlier today, and we go through some of that. And now, John, I apologize. I probably mispronounced the name. A distinguished professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Michigan State and nationally recognized facial recognition expert, believes it's, quote, highly likely, unquote, that the images of the man wearing sunglasses and a hat on the Central Michigan sideline and a photo of Stalions on the Michigan sideline are the same person. A distinguished professor in the Department of Computer Science, Engineering at Michigan State and nationally recognized facial recognition expert, nationally recognized, says it's highly likely the images of the man wearing sunglasses at night and a hat on the Central Michigan sideline and a photo of Stalions are the same person. Now, I think a lot of us have come to the same conclusion. We don't know for sure. We do not know for sure. But it sure looks like that. According to a nationally recognized facial recognition expert, it's highly likely. Highly likely. And then you add in the fact that there's nobody who said, oh, that's me. That's me. Yeah. At ESPN's request, this Jan and Stephen Groves, a PhD student, used state-of-the-art commercial face recognition system to compare the two photographs. The system compares the images based on several facial characteristics. Those are trade secrets. To provide a similarity score in the range of 0 to 1, the higher the similarity score, the most likely it is the two faces being compared are the same person. The system produced a score of 0.6. When comparing the two photographs, to validate that score, they would have to compare Stalions' photo to a database of more than 4,500 photos of white males, maybe one of them being the fat guy from Minnesota. Or do they have to all be skinny guys? Maybe they all have to be skinny guys. The reason why it's 0.6 because there's a disguise. If I take an identical photo, it would be 1. Even changes in the pose, illumination, expression, sunglasses. The match will never be perfect based on this analysis. The two images are of the same person with high confidence. And that is your PATC money shot of this article. The two images of the same person with high confidence. Now, why is this important? First of all, let me get to a super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Cameron B, for your continued generosity to this channel. Still waiting to hear you sing I'm a Jayhawk. I do not do fight songs anymore, Cameron B. I just don't have the time to learn these fight songs and do them. I just don't have the time to do them. I just sang Corey Hart's I Wear My Sunglasses at Night episode of about 3 or 4 episodes ago. I apologize, Cameron B. If I do sing a fight song, it will be I'm a Jayhawk. It's the next fight song I sing will be I'm a Jayhawk. Okay? But I don't know when that's going to be. But thank you, Cameron B, for the super chat. I appreciate it so very, very much. Okay. I understand that, Cameron B, but I haven't done a fight song since then. I have not done a fight song since. The next fight song I do will be I Am a Jayhawk. Okay? Now, Immaculate. It's Connor. The only way it's not Connor is if there is some other NCAA investigation going on that is causing SMU not to be able to tell you who that is. It's very, very, very likely it's Connor Stalions. I think all of us has made that determination. The reason why I think this is important, I'm trying to find a comment here, because someone mentioned. Well, anyways, I'll just go off what I was about to say. The reason, check it out. Paul Feinbaum has no confidence in Tony Petit's handling. I don't know why Paul Feinbaum would say that. Why would he already be taking a shot at the Big Ten commissioner on this? I have turned Paul Feinbaum completely off. He's all over the place. I don't think he remembers what he said 2 months ago, to be honest with you. Maybe we should not have confidence in Tony Petit's handling of this situation, but how can we come to that conclusion at this point? I don't know. I don't know anything about the Western Michigan photo. If someone wants to DM me a photo, was Connor Stalions potentially on the Western Michigan sideline? Send me a DM. And if you send me a DM at Flug Empire, let me know in the chat that you sent me a DM. The reason why I think this is important, Connor Stalions is at the sideline of Central Michigan, because I believe, but more importantly, the people I talk to absolutely believe in this. And I'm going to tell you, one of these people, and I feel good about it, I can say this part. One of these people is from the University of Minnesota. You can feel rest assured. That's how I'm going to put it. You can disagree with me, but there's no way Connor Stalions gets on that sideline with a Central Michigan shirt on, with the hat on, with those pants on, with sunglasses on. There's no way he gets on that sideline by himself. Somebody else at the University of Michigan is involved. There's no way a $55,000 a year recruiting analyst on Michigan gets to get on that sideline with a badge, with a bench pass, with the ability to stand there with the coaches, with a Central Michigan hat on, sunglasses, and with a big wad of paper that he's got in his hand. He doesn't get there alone. No, it's not rogue. That's why this Central Michigan story is so big. In-person scouting, check. Connor Stalions gets suspended without pay, check. Connor Stalions resigns, check. Okay, something bad happened here, right? We have surveillance cameras, video of people sitting in seats that Connor Stalions bought, those people filming the sidelines of a future Michigan opponent, check. Now we have Connor Stalions at the Central Michigan sideline, and there is no way he got there alone. A Central Michigan staffer, you think a Central Michigan assistant coach, he's not getting that bench pass. He's not getting the Central Michigan hat and shirt handed to him. What other bench pass person has Central Michigan given out a bench pass to that has received the clothing that looks exactly like a Central Michigan assistant coach? Connor Stalions did not get on that sidelines alone. And that is why when we see the report that it's highly likely that it's him, NCAA is involved in investigations. That's why we had to talk about it on this show today. It is big news. The result of this big news, we're not going to know for a long time. And one more thing about Connor Stalions, Michigan, before we get on to the ACC. Holy smokes theater. The major update. I don't know, for the last 3 or 4 days, a lot of Twitter questions saying, what's going to happen? I have no idea. People I talk to, not even putting out an opinion on what the final result of the punishment is going to be for the University of Michigan, for the coach, for the head coach, and for other assistant coaches. No idea. So when I talk about a head coach getting a 2-game suspension before the end of the week, that's what we think is going to happen, because that is the space that Tony Petitti can work in. That he has authority according to the Big Ten bylaws. It doesn't mean I believe that that's the end result of the entire investigation. I'm talking about this week, what the commissioner can do. And then Michigan can put an injunction on. They can do whatever they want, right? They can challenge it in the courts. I talked about it in episode 325 earlier today. I don't think Michigan wants to go to court with this. Why would they want to do that? They're going to be open up to discovery, emails, text messages. Come on. Michigan doesn't want any part of that. So the space, the authority that Tony Petitti has, the maximum authority, the maximum penalty that he can put out without going deeper in the weeds for right now, for this week, is a 2-game suspension for Jim Harbaugh. Could it be more the following week? Could it be 2 months more? There's more punishment, 2 months more? Yes. But I'm talking about this week. I'm talking about actions being taken during the season. And I don't think, doesn't matter what I think, I guess, but Michigan, what are they going to do? I don't know, man. It's stated clearly in the the bylaws. Now, there's been a lot of Michigan bloggers, beat writers, who didn't pay attention to look at what the rule was when it comes to in-person scouting, not scout, in-person scouting. They didn't bother to read those rules. So maybe they're not bothering to read what the Big Ten bylaws are when it comes to the authority of the Big Ten commissioner. I'm telling you that the commissioner has the authority to lay down a 2-game suspension after he believes the due process coming in, all that information coming in. I think he's got a few more days to ponder it. I think he's given Michigan. I would put money on it. I'd put your money on it that Michigan is aware of some of the evidence by now. I think they're aware that the commissioner has all the political coverage, the authority, the space, the time to hand out a punishment of a 2-game suspension before the end of this week. And I think some reports are reflecting that. So, let me, again, this was an issue that I wasn't going to even talk about in a live show. But because the kind of Stalions, Central Michigan thing, we had to go to it. Now we're going to get to, after I go through a few comments on this, we're going to get to a major update in the Holy Smokes Theater. Even though it's major, I'm going to disappoint some of you because I'm going to be talking in generalities for now. Remember what I did with the North Carolina thing? The hockey skates? First I had to talk in generality, then I got into specifics. I have to speak in generalities for this show. But the SEC is getting aggressive. But let me first go through some comments here. Again, if you hit the $, put up a comment, I'll get to it right away. We'll make sure we get to it. And I'll get to a few comments right now. I think Michigan turns over dirt on other schools. There's a lot of this. Michigan's going to turn dirt on other schools. Michigan is going to sue a private investigation firm of Ryan Day's brother. There's all these deflection, all these stories being put out in. What I'm being told is just pretty much all just garbage. Just garbage. I don't know. I'm not sure what is going on inside the minds. Maybe there are people who are afraid to tell their consumers. I don't know. I better not go there. There is a lot of stuff out there that's just, another word was used. I can't, this is a family show, but it's garbage. A lot of it's garbage being thrown out there. Much like the garbage that was thrown out there with the Big Ten Pac-12 story going on, when the chart man and the smiley face guy, they were just throwing all this garbage out. And none of that garbage affected the story, because the story was the Pac-12 was having a hard time coming up with a media deal that would get all the Pac-12 presidents to sign on the dotted line. Remember, that was the story. And then there was all this deflection. The story here is there's a whole lot of evidence with Michigan's in-person scouting, which is prohibited. That's the story. So now all these shining objects are being thrown in the air, but here at Peek Around the Corner, we stick with the story. We go where the story goes. If one of the many people that I trust, one of my own sources and one of the sources that we've been able to gather over the 14, 15 months we've been a YouTube channel, if one of them knocks me on the shoulder, gives me a call in the middle of the night, sends me a text message and says, yeah, there's something to this, something to that, private investigation firm hired by Ryan Day's brother, or Michigan is about to spill they're blackmailing the Big Ten, or Michigan's going to leave the SEC. and all this other just crap. If somebody that I trust tells me one of those things, then I'll dig into it. But there is so much stuff being thrown against the wall, and none of it's going to stick. None of it's going to change the story that is at hand. We are singularly focused on the story. Let me get to a few more comments here. YT video title was kind of Stalions on the Western Michigan sideline. Has somebody sent me a direct message on that Twitter? Has anybody sent me anything on that? I don't have any. Direct messages. So if there's any Western Michigan County Stalions stuff going on, send it to my direct message, and I will DM me, and I will take a look at it. Okay. Okay, let's we're going to get to the ACC here. First of all, let me backtrack just a little bit and tell you what the Holy Smokes Theater looks like right now. Remember, we got Peter Collins, the Florida State Board of Trustees, on his VIP box up in the upper left-hand corner, looking over the stage. And next is another VIP box next to him is Greg Sankey sitting there at the SEC. In the middle of the stage is Clemson and Florida State. In the front row is North Carolina. In the fifth row is Notre Dame. In the sixth row is a pair of hockey skates, Tony Petitti and NBC. In the 15th row are the other magnificent 7 schools sitting there. Jose asked a great question. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Okay, there we go. Has ESPN entered the Holy Smokes Theater? Best way I can answer that is ESPN has entered the front foyer. There's that popcorn stand that goes all the way to the doors, the glass doors of the Holy Smokes Theater, and there is ESPN standing there. Have they walked into the hall? Have they walked in the auditorium? No, but they are in the front foyer. What the message that I'm about to deliver is, and again, take it however you want, but the SEC has completely changed. And this is going to become obvious at least by the first quarter of 2024. Now this is coming from the Florida State Money Perch Remember, he told us last time we talked to him, he thought 80% Florida State going to the SEC. He didn't have any thoughts on Clemson. He didn't have any thoughts on North Carolina. He didn't have any thoughts on anything else. He just, in his world, they're talking Florida State, the future, and 80% Florida State. Well, B. Tim and his associates, the people we helped break we did break the USC Big Ten. We helped break the whole Big 12, Pac-12 in real time to you. We told you all that the chatter was heating up in the ACC, Holy Smokes Theater, and it's heating up some more. Obviously, it's no secret anymore who B. Tim and his associates talked to. They talked to the money. And be it good or bad, the money has been directing the movements of college football for quite some time. Consolidation, donors, mega boosters, media networks. So the SEC has the money in the SEC, has sort of just done a 180. When we broke, let me take a step back. When we broke the USC Big Ten thing on March 31st, 2022, and we did 3 months of documentation, real time, on Twitter, and then it happened on June 30th, the donors were the ones who broke it. The leak came out of Los Angeles. Not out of the Big Ten offices. It's one of the reasons why the Big Ten tracked me, followed me 9 different times on Twitter, minutes after I would put out another tweet on USC and the Big Ten. It's this SEC starting to get aggressive in targeting ACC schools in the SEC's next realignment, next SEC expansion. It's starting to leak. And it's starting to leak from money people. Now, how does money people know this? They're not the ones making the decisions. Yeah, they're not. But they're the ones who kind of shape the decisions. The SEC is being more aggressive, like the title of the show. Greg Sankey, I think if you go back, to be fair, if you go back and watch his public comments, his wording has changed a bit. But back behind the curtain, the SEC has changed. The people who talk with schools indirectly, they're talking. People are talking. Florida State is talking. Clemson is talking. SEC, they're all talking to each other. Is ESPN in the, no, they're in the front foyer though. So we do, how do I say this? There is one part of this story which could change everything. And we've talked about it. But now it has been cleared. There's so much clarity to this next wave of realignment. And it's Notre Dame. If Notre Dame continues to sit on the sideline, if they continue to press forward and try to still maintain their football independence. If they keep doing this for another 18 months, if they're going to ride this out, ride or die, try to get a decent enough media contract with NBC, and if that within that exclusive window, when that starts and when that finishes and it's not a deal done, if Notre Dame tries to find another potential media partner, if that continues to go on, the chances of the SEC achieving a clean sweep of Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, North Carolina, it is becoming quite high. It's much easier if Notre Dame does not break away from the college football independence. The likelihood of Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, yes, more than 2 schools, all 4 schools becoming SEC members is going to get pretty high. That is what is being expressed to us, and the chatter is getting louder and louder and louder. And it's real. Am I declaring today that Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, North Carolina are going to the SEC? No, I am not. If that gets announced tomorrow, I was not right. We're not declaring that. We're not there yet. We're not close to being there yet. But we're giving you that peek around the corner. Just like we did with every other realignment that has happened, including Oklahoma and Texas, to the SEC on Twitter. Colorado, everything. We're telling you this. If Notre Dame does not break away from their independence and makes a beeline towards the Big Ten, the ability of SEC to nab all 4 of those schools, that's the chalk. North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, Clemson, that becomes the chalk if Notre Dame doesn't break away. Why is that? Because the pathway to the SEC is so much easier. Again, we've talked about this, but now it is being told to us. That's what Florida State, Clemson, that is what the money purchase are discussing. If you're gonna go down the road of spending all this money for a settlement for the ACC, you're gonna go to the path of least resistance. You're gonna go to the SEC. This is where we're at right now. Imagine an SEC. Again, we're not declaring it. We're not reporting it. But man, we are giving you a peek around the corner. Imagine an SEC of 20 schools. If Notre Dame acts after those 4, then yes, Notre Dame to the Big Ten and +1 going to the Big Ten. That probably is what's going to happen. Notre Dame acting first or acting 5th can sway the future of the next wave of conference realignment. If they do not act first, the SEC sees this opportunity. They're seizing the opportunity. They are talking. The opportunity for an opportunity. The chances of the SEC completing the clean sweep of attaching all 4 of those universities to their conference in the next 3 years, in 2027 to 28, the odds keep going up. And if they ever flatline, if they ever come back down, I will let you know. But today, on November 6th, and I cannot get any more details than that, but I will eventually, like we always do. You remember when we talked about the hot bubble of action? Now I'm going to put something else out here. You remember when we talked about the hot bubble of action? That was going to happen between April 28th and May 17th. We knew it was a meeting on May 7th in Chicago between Colorado and Big 12. But we couldn't tell you that level of detail at the time. But we knew there was a hot bubble of action. There's already been a hot bubble of action between the SEC and one of those schools. Hot bubble of action. Indirect hot bubble of action. And you're not going to, and eventually we're going to tell the story on that hot bubble of action. And eventually a national college football reporter is going to tell you the story of that hot bubble of action. Remember when we said to you that during that Colorado, that whole thing, that we said eventually reporters are going to write about the Colorado Big 12 hot bubble of action, and they did. And then they went into full details about it. That's what's happening here. Although on May 7th in Chicago, Brett Yormark was at the meeting. In this hot bubble of action, Greg Sankey was not at the meeting. These are quote-unquote indirect talks. And no, we don't believe ESPN was there. If ESPN was there, we would have them in the theater. The whole idea that the SEC is being passive, nah, throw that away. That's not what's happening anymore. Is this the reason why the SEC hasn't gone in 9 games yet? Is this the reason why ESPN hasn't put up more money for that 9th game? Maybe. But ESPN has started being really aggressive. And then you ask, what about the Big Ten, Greg? What about the Big Ten? Well, that's the issue, isn't it? I mean, how aggressive can the Big Ten get? They can't. And I don't want to get too much down that road right now. This story is going to continue to develop in the days and weeks ahead. And once again, we're not declaring the 4 schools are going to the SEC. We're not declaring that. We're not reporting that. But the odds of the clean sweep from the SEC, that has gone upwards because that's how aggressive the SEC has gotten. It's a different SEC frame of mind today, November 6th, than it was July 6th. Different. And how do I say this? Is the Big Ten going to just lay down flat and let this happen? No, they're not. But it would behoove the Big Ten. It would behoove a North Carolina, a Virginia, a Florida State, and a Clemson to have another option. It would behoove them if Notre Dame broke first out of the gate. And if that doesn't happen, then the SEC has a pretty big pathway to get the clean sweep. Brett McMurphy hinted at a recent interview on 365 Sports during an SMU interview. There was something major possibly breaking regarding realignment, but it wasn't comfortable talking about Atlantis 31. How long ago was that interview? Let me know what the date of that was. I appreciate it. Yes. Now, Immaculate and a lot of people in the chat, they say things with less words. They say more than I do using a whole lot less words. I see two different paths forward, and a divergent point of them is Notre Dame. One path, Notre Dame going to the Big Ten, and the other is I'm staying put. There is a divergent path. If Notre Dame gets out in front, there are more possibilities. If Notre Dame doesn't go out in front, man, the road of those four schools going to the SEC is getting paved. That's the best way I can say it. Sheep in wolf's clothing. Sheep in wolf's clothing.
Oh my God!
So the Swam article was on top of this a while back. Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I believed I mocked it at the time. So shame on me. Shame on me. Again, we're not declaring. Now, for those who don't know, the Swam article of a while back said Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State to the SEC. Again, we're not declaring it. We're not reporting it. Not today. Keep your head on a swivel. I'm not reporting it today. I'm just saying the clean sweep, the possibility of that happening has gone up before 2027. The SEC has changed, man. Look. The SEC, the Big Ten next year, it's going to be more dynamic. There's more people on the West Coast that are going to be watching Big Ten content. Big Ten content's going to be watching in the Los Angeles city. Los Angeles city is going to become a Big Ten city. The national advertisers are going to love it. But, yeah, Big Ten might not win the national championship again. It probably won't. But it's become more valuable. And it's going to shoot out ahead of the SEC in value. And imagine an SEC with Tallahassee, with Clemson, and then with Virginia, North Carolina. You can see why the SEC is being aggressive. They're seeing what the Big Ten is going to have a very successful season next year when it comes to the value of the conference. And okay, that was September 1st. That was a while ago. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you, Lannis. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get to the phone calls. We have a lot to talk about. There's no question about it. Hold on, everybody. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. The County Stalions, Central Michigan. The reason why it's a big story. The reason why it's a big story is he did not do that going rogue. That's not what people believe at all. So that's going to involve at least one more person at the University of Michigan. And we believe at Peek Around the Corner, we said in episode 325 earlier today, we're saying on this live show, we believe later this week that there's going to be a punishment handed down, probably a 2-game suspension, Jim Harbaugh. Does that mean it's going to be the end of that? No, it's not. But this is something that the commissioner can do. We do not believe it's going to happen today or tomorrow, and we thought that over the weekend, and Pete Thamel said the same thing on a tweet today. The due process part has to be a part of the component, has to be a component to this for Tony Petitti.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Well, I waited. I wanted to see if anyone else called in first because you just let me know when, but this might be a longer call.
That's fine. That's fine.
Just, first off on the Michigan stuff, just briefly, I know you can't say it, but I'm going to say it. It was Connor. Connor on the CMU sideline. There's no other investigation that we know of. It's Connor. That being said, I don't know if anything's even going to happen there. So I'm just going to move on from that. We're just going to wait. If Penn State beats Michigan, they will be doing everyone a big favor, and we'll just leave it at that. In terms of realignment, now I really do not like to toot my own horn, but I do want to say this much. Remember, said a while back to you, ACC, look at it, it's going to happen. And everyone says the usual things like the gore and this and that. These things get worked around. There's a whole lot of movement on this. And this is all pretty much inevitable. What's not inevitable is who and where. Now, with what I said earlier that you showed upon, with Notre Dame being the turning point, I guess we'd say, if they want to go with the Big Ten, if they deem that they cannot build whatever it is they might want to build with the ACC to stay out of the Big Ten, I'm thinking, what do you think? It's probably them in Miami. And that's when the SEC could get their dream combo of Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia. Now, people are going to say, why Virginia? Just start thinking about them as being connected to North Carolina. I mean, it'd be a very tedious conversation to try and think of. Otherwise, it's just they are. They're connected. They've been connected for a long time. It's just what it is. But if the Big Ten can't get Notre Dame to jump at this moment in this phase, they're going to throw everything they got at North Carolina. Would you agree?
Yeah, but to be able to get North Carolina, they probably have to have North Carolina break. I mean, they would have to have Notre Dame break first. That's the essence. One of the things that people that more than one, like everybody believes, the scenario is if Notre Dame breaks first, Big Ten can be in play. If Notre Dame doesn't break first, it's very difficult for Big Ten to become in play for North Carolina.
Yes and no. This is where I differ a lot from the public talk, and I understand the logic to that because that's obvious. It's very clear. Like if Notre Dame would have the least cost to them as an individual entity leaving the ACC, and that basically gets rid of the extension that was signed in 2016. And so if that gets basically nullified, then the ACC agreement actually only goes to 2027, and the cost of departure for everyone else is much lower. And that's what you're talking about, I'm assuming, because that's the obvious thing. And if Notre Dame makes that choice, it all fumbles from there. But if they don't, there is still another option that is not talked about and that could very well happen. And I know most people won't believe it, but that's okay. It's a one-time exit deal. One time, one cost, You only get to do it this one time because there's no way they're going to do this more than once where you take exit money and then use it later for an exit. And that would be if, say, like 6 schools were to want to leave. You might even see a couple then take advantage of it to go to the Big 12 because if those 6 go, we're talking Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State. I don't care what 6 other teams they get to replace that, even though they've already got 3, so 3 more. The value is not equal. And I know people are saying, well, the courts will not side with anyone but the ACC because the contract says it, so that's the case. My experience, that is not always the case. I mean, contracts do get challenged. If the value there is so much different that it would actually be at a loss to pay that out, I can't see ESPN is losing that battle. And even if they were, if you're the ACC and that's your one partner in the future, do you really want to force ESPN's hand in that? Or so that's what I'm saying. The other option is this one-time exit, and that would be Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech to the SEC, and those other 2 schools to the Big Ten. Because remember, there is going to be some pushback in North Carolina and Virginia if those schools don't seem to get equal exit points. Let's say North Carolina State and Virginia Tech are pushed to the Big 12. You're probably going to see some trouble in those states. Is it enough to stop it? I don't know. But that's a real problem that you kind of have to look at and say, could this happen? Yes. Do we want to take the risk of bringing that on by starting this move? I don't know. That's, people getting paid a lot more have to figure that part out. So, I don't know which is actually the more simple path. On the shallow end, it looks like the Notre Dame move to the Big Ten is, but then what about North Carolina State and Virginia Tech? I mean, how do you solve that problem?
I don't know. I'm not hearing. I don't know. I'm not hearing anything about Virginia Tech and North Carolina State right now. It's, so I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think there is an easy answer. I certainly don't have it, and I wouldn't expect you. Just kind of putting it that way because I think it's unanswerable. Whereas the other possibilities that I listed, in terms of the 2 diverging points, it solves the North Carolina-Virginia problem. The other issues, contracts and getting out of it and agreements and all that, it gets those schools out. They're probably out for, I'm just going to use an even rounding number, $100 million or maybe 150. You could be sitting on a pile of $1 billion if that's the case, just with those 6. And that may not, that maybe doesn't include the likes of, maybe Louisville and another might want to look at the future of the ACC like that and say, this isn't a good spot for us. We'll pay the money to go out to the Big 12 just because we think it's got more of a future for us. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I'm really interested in seeing how this goes now that you're saying that there is actual movement happening, because it's what we've been waiting on. And people think that this can't happen sooner rather than later. Remember, target date, 2026, means announcement date, 2024. Would you say that's generally the case now?
Yeah, I would, if I had to put my chips in the middle of the table, I'd be putting it on either happening like officially where the movement happens 26 or 27. But what I'm really the message that I really want to for me put out there today is there is an SEC being aggressive and not only with Florida State and Clemson, but with the potentiality of all four, with North Carolina and Virginia. There's nobody sending me any information in regards to Miami, Florida, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State. I'm just talking about me right now, okay? This show, who we talk to. It doesn't mean that's not happening. I'm just saying there definitely is in SEC. They're picking up their pace on this, and it's not just two schools.
Right. No, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
And what I would say to that is what you're probably hearing is the opening salvo in a negotiation. You have, all right, this is what we'd probably be willing to accept in the end as a final solution. That's not what you ask for in an opening salvo. Mm-hmm. I would say Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, sure, that's their opening salvo. And maybe they get it. If Notre Dame cuts loose and takes, say, Miami with them, then I dare say they might get it. But North Carolina State, Virginia Tech are still a problem. And for them to go to the Big 12, I think that would mean ESPN has to kick up the pay of the Big 12 a little bit more. I don't know how else you do it to keep those politicians and whatever in line, but they've shown in the past that they're willing to do it and capable of doing it because of how Virginia and Virginia Tech affected Big East expansion. That's real. That's history. That's precedent set that people who are there right now don't have to worry about setting precedent. It's already been set. So how that affects them, I don't know. And this isn't an easy negotiation. I mean, this is a very complicated multi-party negotiation about who's going to go where. But yeah, from the SEC's perspective, that's what I would start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want those schools. I mean, every single one of their expansions so far, they've touted how the expansion has improved their academic standing. It's a thing for them. Like, they take a lot of crap for it. So, they show with every single one of them how they've increased their standing, and North Carolina and Virginia do that. Dare say Florida State might actually be above their average. Maybe not. But Clemson and Florida State are right around the average. And UNC and Virginia, by adding them both with Texas, would give you 3 public Ivies. That would be their big bragging right, and it's for real. But and that's why when people are sitting there going, "Why Virginia? Why Virginia?" Well, they're there. Like I'm no expert on every single little detail of it, but you give Virginia Big Ten money or SEC money and all the eyeballs and everything, and I think that they could become a good football program, and they're one of the best basketball programs currently. Mm-hmm. They're right there. Washington, D.C., they are very well connected. So, from that sense, I just consider them to be part of it. And, people can agree with that or not. But Virginia is right there. So that's really my thoughts on that, is that this could go either way, and either way is obviously the better route. But if I could say, go on one more thing with you before I hand this over, because I know there's probably going to be some people want to call in about this.
You bet.
And I know that you're looking into this too, is the House versus NCAA case.
Yeah.
And how much that could end up playing a major role in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read it. I've taken a look at it, but it's all so overwhelming, right? I mean, there's so many cases going on. There's Johnson, it's just...
Well, the thing is, Carl, I don't have things to say yet, but we're having someone on who talks about that a lot.
Okay.
And I think it's very important. And from what I'm seeing on this, I dare say this could actually provide the autonomous conferences with what they need on their attack on the NCAA, because the NCAA does not have the money for this. It's a one-time class action. Everyone get in it.
Yeah.
If someone can come along and help the NCAA cover that cost, whenever it gets settled, it'll get settled, then no one else can ever come after the NCAA on it. It'll be over. It'll be done.
Yeah.
And if you're the one who's able to provide that cost, that price, you can basically name what you want. And the only thing that the NCAA has to offer are votes. Are votes on whatever you want. So if what you want is full governance for the autonomous conferences to make all divisional rules you want, all the conference playoff rules you want, all the NIL rules you want, whatever you want. All you're going to have to do is come up with $1, $2, $3 billion, whatever the thing is. And remember, that's not a 1 year cost. I mean, those payments could be spread out over 10, 20 years. So while it seems like it's a huge number, it's much more efficient than fighting for this government when, those people with the votes have no reason to give it to you. But if the NCAA goes under and that basketball tournament goes under, all those small colleges with their small athletic departments that depend upon that money, they have reason to give you your yes vote. So that's why I say that could change all of this in a heartbeat, because it's now going class action. The moment they get that settlement, it's done. It's over. You could have the autonomous conferences happen as early as January, because that's when the NCAA convention happens, where they could have that vote. January. So that's why I say this thing could build up very quick.
Yeah.
And that, if they get those rules and everything, that's all based upon getting 2026 ready. Things could move quicker than people realize. So I'm really excited to see that you've gone into this and that you're hearing stuff behind the scenes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone has to say on this. And I hope you tune in tomorrow, because I think that conversation we're going to have is going to be very important.
Beautiful. Are you doing it with Max Winner or whatever his name is?
I don't know if I can. Yes.
Okay, forget it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. Sounds good.
Appreciate the call. All right. Mr. Hot Guy Immaculate, a couple things I want to get to. Gorb, thank you for this super chat. I appreciate it very much. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech aren't revenue neutral in the SEC or the Big Ten. Thank you very, very, very much for the super chat, Gorb. I appreciate your continued generosity to this channel. That's true. Most schools are not revenue neutral for the SEC, the Big Ten. And that includes some of the schools in the SEC and the Big Ten. But yes, for expansion candidates, you are correct. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would not be, added on at some point. But you are correct. Thank you for that. Thank you for the message. Thank you for the generosity, Gorb. I appreciate it so very much. There was another comment here. Yes, Justin Lucas, Arbach said a resolution this week. And that's what we... Okay, here's the... let me show you the tweet here. Nicole Arbach, officials expect resolution by the middle of the week as Tony Petitti mulls action. Sources say Michigan could take legal action if the Big Ten attempts to suspend Jim Harbaugh indefinitely before the conclusion of the NCAA investigation. This is what we talked about in episode 325. This is what we talked about in this live show. This is what we talked about this weekend. Look, we believe that Tony Petitti is going to act, and it's going to be the middle of the week, and it's probably going to be a 2-game suspension. Could it be a 1? Sure, but it's probably going to be a 2-game suspension. And if it's a 2-game suspension, Michigan is not going to take the Big Ten to court because it is explicit in the Big Ten bylaws on what the commissioner can do in regards to punishment, in regards to enforcement. Jim Harbaugh indefinitely, yeah. Then this might get a little tricky. But I don't think Tony Petitti's I don't think that's the action that he is mulling. I could be wrong. The people I talked to could be wrong. But I'm looking at a 2-game suspension in the middle of the week. We'll see what happens. And if that's the case, what is Michigan going to do? File an injunction against what exactly? What's the president going to say? Michigan's going to get some of the evidence. I think they already have gotten some of the evidence. They got to know some of this. I mean, look how obvious a lot of this is. Like, it's, yes. Yeah, so that's where I think this is going, and that's what PATC, that's the direction we think has been going for a while. We don't think it's going to happen tomorrow either. Probably Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Probably Wednesday or Thursday. So keep your head on a swivel. Keep in touch with Peek Around the Corner because we're going to keep following this story. There was one more comment here. It's not... Ward Manuel has released a statement saying he's not attending the college football playoffs meeting tomorrow. I don't blame him. There's a lot going on at the University of Michigan. A lot going on. They've got a lot of things going on. Now, there was one other comment saying that I don't believe a 2-game suspension is 2 games on the slap of the wrist. Might as well cheat. Again, this does not mean it's the full extent of the punishment. It means what Tony Petitti can do now in a short period of time. He can give more of a punishment, but then he has to bring in the Big Ten board. He has to produce more of that evidence. It takes more time. He could have more punishment before the end of the season. We're talking about this week's punishment. 2 weeks suspension, I think, is the most that he's going to dole out. Doesn't mean this is the end. It just means it's the start. Just the start. Yeah, without the full board, it's about the most. Thank you, Hagen. Thank you. In this short period of time, this is the most that Tony Petitti can do. I believe Ward Emanuel's not going to the college football playoff ranking meeting, Immaculate, where they rank him, because he's part of that committee. He's part of the voting. Craig, if it's more than 2 games, could Michigan successfully take the Big Ten to court, or what do they think they do? If Tony Petitti does more than 2 games and doesn't bring in the Big Ten board where they can give him the authority, yes, then Michigan probably has some leeway in taking them to court.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
But the whole idea of Michigan taking anybody to court over this, I mean, be my guest. I mean, you're going to have discovery, text messages, emails. And Michigan does not want to go to court over any of this. A lot of this is for public consumption, period. But they're going to have the evidence. There's stacks of it. They're going to be looking at it, and they're going to be they won't be able to do much with the 2-game suspension. If Tony Petitti goes above that, that means he got the approval from the Big Ten board, other Big Ten presidents, and if he does that during this week or the following week, maybe Michigan comes back and says we're gonna go to court. That's fine. Make my day. I mean, basically, that's where we're at. JD, the floor is yours, Mr. Seminole. Did you catch what we talked about in the Holy Smokes Theater today? Sankey is getting aggressive. There's things I cannot go into detail about, but we will. We will. Every time I say we will, we do get to the details. The SEC is not playing. They're looking for the clean sweep. Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, North Carolina. If Notre Dame does not act first, the possibility, the pathway could be there for the SEC to act on all four of those schools to get them in before the 2027, 2028 football season. What's going on, sir?
Hey, sir. Hope you're having a good day.
It's a wild day. Wild, JD. If I could tell you, I would, but I can't. But it's wild, sir. But Greg Sankey is not being passive. That's the main message.
No, he's not, and we knew that was coming. But before I comment on that, let me ask you a question. What are you hearing behind the scenes? Because the Big Ten has to be putting pressure on Notre Dame. I mean, is that happening? Because they're going to mess around, and I'm not saying they're going to miss their opportunity, but they're going to really potentially harm the Big Ten as far as quality moves and trying to get out ahead of this in front of the SEC.
I can tell you yes. And NBC. NBC lukewarm with the idea of having Notre Dame as an independent football product in the years ahead. It's going to be real difficult for NBC to provide Notre Dame the revenue needed to get the advertisers on board for 7 home games to get to that 50, 55, 60 million a year. NBC we've even got information coming to us from people who work at NBC, and so do other college football reporters. So that whole story is a bubbling. Yes, pressure is being applied everywhere, JD, everywhere. It's hot.
It just seems like Notre Dame is on notice, and I would have to believe they're being told they don't have 18 months to decide. They got about 60 to 90 days to decide, is what my guess is. Could be 120 days. It might be 4 or 5 months. I can't imagine it's 18 months because what you're seeing from Sankey, okay, the SEC understands that FSU and Clemson, they're not bluffing. They're ready to move. They're ready to get this done. And they want to make the initial move in 2024 like you suggest.
Hey, JD, I apologize. I have to interrupt. The chat room's going a little crazy.
Okay.
Justin Lucas, a former employee at a Big Ten football program, said Monday it was his job to steal signs, and he was given details from multiple league schools to compile a spreadsheet of play calling. Yeah. First of all, it's legal to steal signs. It's illegal to do in-person scouting. Second of all, this AP article that people keep mentioning to me on this chat, in the chat, somebody send me a direct message, a DM, and I'll read the article. Please send it to me. I don't have time to be going through. Send me that AP article, the new one that just broke. JD, I apologize, sir. The floor is yours.
Oh, no worries, sir. What was I even talking about? No, I don't even remember.
I'm sorry. You're talking about Greg Sankey being aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, you knew it was coming. I mean, FSU and Clemson, that they forced this. The SEC would have been happy to wait a few more years. And the aggressiveness of FSU and Clemson has forced their hand. The viewership numbers, I don't know. We've had this discussion before. I guess the SEC kind of downgraded the value a little bit of FSU. And now that they understand that the flirtation with FSU and Clemson and the others to the Big Ten,
yes, sir.
It's not flirting. It's real.
Yes, sir.
They'll
Yep.
go. They'll
Yes.
go, and they'll make announcements in 2024.
Yeah.
And now, what the statements that you're making in your show is just more verification of it's real, it's happening, it's upon us. And yeah, you got to give the Big Ten credit. You know, in a brief period of time, out of USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, everything has changed. They're starting to challenge in the top 10. They're starting to challenge the SEC's dominance in the top 20. They just are. And now FSU and Clemson are sitting out here in the middle. They're kind of on the front line. You know, you've got one side on one and one on the other. Those two teams, and I'm not saying they're the most dominant teams in the country. I'm saying they're the last major brands that help put the other side over the top. And now that they're forcing the issue, you're just seeing now that the fight is about to come. Or I'd say the deals are about to unfold. You know, do I believe FSU and Clemson are going to have to pay $250 million to the ACC to get out? Nope. That might get paid. They're not paying it. You know, they're going to have to pay something, you know. But I think we're getting to the point now that even the frenzy has started behind the scenes that some of that's going to get paid for them. But I don't know. Realignment, the way that it's moved in the last couple of years, we always thought it was moving at light speed. I think it's going to move at hyperspeed or whatever's, you know, faster than light speed in this next off season. And everything you're seeing right now is just more verification. That's what it is. It's not necessarily news. It's verification. And, it's a combination of the two. But I appreciate you saying what you're saying and bringing forward all these updates. And I don't know. You got Regal Noel on the boards. He's still adamant that FSU being in another conference in 2024 isn't out of the question. I don't know that 2024 would happen, but I think 2025 is very realistic. I don't know. But like I said, our insiders are they're really, really quiet. But it's just the stance that Notre Dame is just, I don't know. I don't get it. They're going to be forced. They either have to make a move soon or
I'm sorry, JD.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We got breaking news all over the place here.
Okay. Let me get off.
Go ahead and finish up your call.
No. That was all. But let me let you get to all that because I was just offering some commentary. That's all.
Okay, I appreciate it. JD, thank you so very much. You're very important to the show. Please call again. I do apologize, JD.
No problem, sir. Hope you have a good day.
Yeah, you too, sir. Thank you. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff going on here. I'm gonna just take off the phone line real quick here. I apologize to JD. Very, very important caller. Just like all of you. But JD gives us perspective on Florida State. But we got breaking news all over the place. First of all, Ross Dellinger, the NCAA shared latest Michigan investigation findings with the Big Ten. And this is what we said in our episode 325 today. As the conference considers a multi-game suspension of Jim Harbaugh while the other schools gear up for legal action. The school gears up for legal action. Inside what could be an unprecedented fight. We are going to get into that in a second. Okay? We're going to get into that in a second. Brett McMurphy has just put out a tweet. Michigan has received notice from the Big Ten indicating specific sign stealing allegations, but it does not indicate what the penalties would be administered. What penalties? Michigan sources said Michigan has until Wednesday to respond to the Big Ten. Big Ten pursuit of penalties against Michigan and/or Jim Harbaugh is viewed as a PR stunt in response to public pressure in light of the conference lack of action up to this point. Source said Michigan will legally fight any disciplinary actions which potentially would block any suspension from occurring this season. Okay, so Michigan's going to legally fight any disciplinary actions, any of them, even if it's a 1-game or 2-game suspension of the head coach. I want to see that to believe it, because that is explicitly in the Big Ten bylaws. Michigan, boy, I want to say more. Actions speak louder than words, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to go on that rant. I'm going to hit the pause button. We'll see what Michigan does once the suspension is handed out. Before I get to the Ross Dellinger article, I want to get to this AP article. Ex-college football staffers shared docs with Michigan showing a Big Ten team had Wolverine signs. A former employee at Michigan football program said Monday it was his job to steal signs, and he was given details from multiple league schools to compile a spreadsheet of play calling signals used by Michigan last year. The employee said he recently shared the documents, which showed Wolverine signs and corresponding plays, as well as screenshots of text messages exchanged with staffers at other Big Ten schools with Michigan. The spreadsheet was compiled with details of a handful of coaches and programs across the Big Ten. He also said he gave details to Michigan last week. He hoped it would help Jim Harbaugh's embattled program, as he believes Harbaugh and the coaches are being unfairly blamed for actions of a rogue staffer. Is he a rogue staffer? We'll find out in due time. The whole Central Michigan story plot tells me that he probably ain't, but we'll find out. Again, I've read this article. The alleged actions by conference schools potentially violate Big Ten sportsmanship policy. There's nothing in here. There's nothing in here in this whole article that has anything to do with in-person scouting. Yes, teams steal signs within the game, and they compute that, they compile that, they share that. There's nothing in this article about in-person scouting, filming, anybody else filming Michigan's games. This article is worthless. There's nothing in here, guys. There's nothing in here. It was his job to steal signs, and he was given details on multiple league schools. Yeah, everybody tries to steal signs. Everybody goes through the history of the signs at Michigan, and everybody else does, and they try to figure it out. And the information gets shared. Coaches leave programs to go to other programs. We're talking about in-person scouting of a future opponent during the season. That's what's against the... I don't know. This article to me is absolutely worthless. Unless you want to give me a call and tell me I'm wrong on it, I'm not going to spend any more time. This is the type of stuff that just... there's nothing here. Yes, people steal signs. Oh my goodness, yes they do. In-person scouting is the violation. I'm sorry. I very unimpressed with that article. Give me a moment here, everybody. Give me, the entire article is a Michigan source. That's okay with me. There's a Michigan source that says that other schools are doing in-person scouting, filming. That I'm taking that. I'm taking that in. I'm gonna poke and prod. I'm gonna research it. I'm gonna report on it. But that article was a nothing burger. Just a complete waste of my time on that. It's yikes. It was an absolute nothing burger. Let's get back to some real reporting. So Michigan has received notice from the Big Ten, but it does not indicate what the penalties would be administered. What would they be? Michigan has until Wednesday to respond to the Big Ten. And whatever punishment gets handed out by the Big Ten, if it falls within the bylaws, the Pacific bylaws, what the commissioner can do, there is no appeal. That's also in the Big Ten bylaws. So some of us are actually reading the rules. Now, let's get into Yahoo Sports article. Thanks for everybody for joining us this afternoon.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
to accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The phone lines wasn't supposed to be open. Can you give us a call back?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No. That's my fault. I just want to get through this article because it was just published. I don't know what's in it. Ross Dellinger. And then please call back again, sir. I apologize.
No problem. Thanks, Greg. No problem.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought I closed that up. My apologies. Apologies to JD. Apologize to that caller. There's just so much breaking news. I want to get to it here. Sources. NCAA revealed Michigan findings to the Big Ten. Conference mulling Jim Harbaugh's suspension. On Monday morning, the University football program welcomed a visitor, former pro wrestler from the great state of Minnesota originally. He was a Minnesota Gopher, by the way. He was on the freshman team, but he didn't have good enough grades. He had to leave college. Pro wrestler Ric Flair. It's a fitting start to a week that could evolve in both Ann Arbor and Chicago into an unprecedented showdown between a school and its own conference. The NCAA has revealed its findings in the Michigan Science Stealing investigation to the Big Ten. So, the NCAA has revealed its findings up to this point to the Big Ten. The Big Ten, as we've talked about, they have the information. Due process, they have the information. Tony Petitti's already talked to the presidents at least once, probably twice. We know that Tony Petitti, according to reports, have talked to the athletic directors of the Big Ten at least twice. He's already talked to the Big Ten coaches at least once. And he's talked to the president of Michigan at least once. The NCAA findings do not connect the in-person scouting and recording of opponent sidelines to Harbaugh, sources say. And absent of evidence essential to a potential lawsuit from the school and coach against the league. As of now, there is no findings that connect the in-person scouting, the recording of opponent sidelines to Jim Harbaugh. Keep that in mind. Over the weekend, the school was given a period of several days in which to mount a response to the conference before penalties, if any, are levied. Over the weekend, the school was given a period of several days. So sometime later this week, Michigan's got to be able to give their position to the Big Ten. A resolution around the issue is expected by the end of this week, as soon as Friday. This is exactly what we reported early this morning on episode 325, giving you the peek around the corner. We gave you that exact information. The Big Ten Commissioner, Tony Petitti's pursuit of potential penalties against Harbaugh is the latest chapter on the ongoing saga that has gripped the college football world. Michigan 9-0, number 3 in the college football, travels to Penn State. Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel is skipping out on his duties with this college football playoff committee this week so he can focus on the school's response to the investigation. Michigan's sign stealing scheme first reported October 19th. We know about that. Look at this. Stalions is believed to have used as many as 65 associates to scout games. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. Why sign stealing is not against NCAA rules, scouting a future opponent game is, as well as using recording devices to document signals. 65 associates. As many. It could be more. Think about that. Think about the grand scale of this. Think about all those interns at the University of Michigan. And nobody else knew about it. Nobody knew how Connie Stalions got all these hand signals before the game even begun. 65. As many as 65. Not 3, not 5, not even 12, not even 30. 65 associates. Associates, that's a pretty interesting word to use. In just his 8th month as commissioner, Petitti has faced internal pressure from league coaches, administrators. I'm just looking for some new information here. In meetings with Michigan officials in Ann Arbor on Friday, Petitti is believed to have proposed a multi-game suspension for Harbaugh, something that school officials, including President Santo Ono, pushed back against. Again, we received these reports from Michigan, from the beat writers, from the bloggers, from the Twitter accounts, that Petitti asked Santa Ono to give penalty to Jim Harbaugh. But it's Petitti saying, look, a multi-game suspension for Harbaugh, and Santa Ono pushed back against it. Ono expressed the desire for the conference to wait until the NCAA completes the investigation before levying any penalties. Well, I got to tell you, Ono, you got 13 other presidents lining up. You got NCAA has shared this information to the Big Ten. 65 different associates filming future Michigan Big Ten opponents. Come on, man. What do you think the Big Ten's going to do? Think they're just going to wait on it, sit on it until the NCAA is done with the investigation 3 years from now? Tony Petitti would be out on the streets. He would be fired. He would be absolutely incompetent to sit on the information, the NCAA. I get it, President Ono. You're saying this for public consumption. But in the real world, Tony Petitti has to act. However, Petitti and the Big Ten athletic directors and presidents has spent the last 2 weeks discussing potential penalties, with most of those talks held without the presence of Michigan representatives. Any Big Ten penalty would be rooted in the conference sportsmanship policy, which allows for the commissioner to hand down disciplinary measures for violating the integrity of competition in the competitive arena. According to the policy, the commissioner can take disciplinary action that is considered standard or major. The standard action includes a fine not exceeding $10,000 and a suspension of no more than 2 contests. Major action. Now, the commissioner can take major action, but he has to have approval from the Big Ten Executive Board of Presidents. Any school targeted for violation is permitted a reasonable time frames set by the commissioner to file a response with the league. It looks like the commissioner's given Michigan 2 or 3 days to have a response. There's really nothing new left here. Can the Big Ten apply an NCAA bylaw to override its own bylaw to suspend Harbaugh? Well, I think we've gotten enough out of that. So, I'm going to have to take a look at that. Hold on. A lot of stuff being thrown at me here, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of stuff being thrown at me. The biggest part of that Yahoo Sports article was 65, as many as 65. 65 associates. Wow. Out of his own pocket. Wow. Thank you, R. Webb, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much, Greg. If the SEC pulls off North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State, does the Big Ten even bother with remaining ACC schools? That's a great question. That's a great question. I think they would. If that happened, I think a Notre Dame and a Miami, Florida would probably work out for the media, for Fox, and for the Big Ten presidents. But that's a very good question, R. Webb. Again, we shall see. We shall see. I'm thinking I would lean yes, that the Big Ten would still bother. Thank you so much for R. Webb for the super chat. I appreciate it. Tough Tony. Wrigley Field, turf falls apart. Headline from the New York Post. We're all the players' safety advocates when it comes to games at baseball stadium. I agree. Enough with these games at baseball stadiums. It's terrible. It's just terrible on the players. Thank you, Tony. Tough Tony, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you, Mr. Gopher. Thank you so very much. Thank you for all the super chats. I appreciate it. 65 associates. Mike Pilch, the advantage of in-person sign stealing is, all the dummy signs, real signs, audibles, whatever you run out of each formation, even lets know the scheme. Yeah, you can't know all that from regular sign stealing. Very much so. Great comment, Mike Pilch. Great comment. Michigan is circling the wagons. Athletic directors stand at home in order to respond at a moment's notice. And I also think they're probably going through the evidence, at least the summary of the evidence. The NCAA has shared it with the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has given notice to Michigan. So they're probably going through it. They're probably going through it. The 65 associates had to be paid for the tickets, maybe even the hours worked. They didn't do that for free. Absolutely. There's no way. I shouldn't say no way. very little chance that College Stalions supplied all the money, all the resources to this elaborate in-person. Joe Z, ESPN can facilitate Notre Dame's desire to remain independent. I don't believe that to be the case. ESPN cannot give Notre Dame the time slot, the exposure for 7 of those home games. ESPN is all filled up. ABC is all filled up. Where ESPN, they can give them the money, maybe, but they can't give them the exposure. It's SEC 1, ACC 2, and the Big 12, sharing it with the Big 12 with Fox. There's nothing left. Notre Dame cannot get that 2:30 Eastern time slot on ESPN. That's the problem. Woo! I tell you. Okay, now I'm going to open up the phone lines here. I apologize for that. We had to get through all that information. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. I promise I won't close them down again. I may have to interrupt again. Sorry, JD. I apologize to the last caller. A lot of stuff going on right now. I'm going to
I coach it.
I'm looking at a video here. I can't see it. Okay.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan 5, thank you so much for calling again. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, no problem. I know there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you about, I think another person already asked, but if the SEC were to get Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia, and North Carolina, what strategy do you think the Big Ten would pursue at that point?
That's a great question. If the SEC would get the clean sweep of Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, I'm assuming that the Big Ten would still be, of course, incredibly interested in Notre Dame. And I would probably think that Miami would be the next candidate.
Okay. I know you've been very resistant to this idea, but I'm going to throw it out anyway.
Got it.
Georgia Tech is 5-4, and they look like they're starting to try and be a real program again.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Georgia Tech.
Okay, got it, yep.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be a real football program again. And so I'm wondering if they might become an option at some point.
Yeah, I've been resistant to it. I don't think it's going to happen. But if the clean sweep happens for the SEC, could there be a Miami, Florida, Georgia Tech combo? And then Notre Dame makes it 21? You know what? I'm gonna say, yeah, maybe there is a slight possibility that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this other thing going on, the big story with Michigan and everything, I really think that this is going to end up mushrooming. I think that a lot of schools probably have a lot of dirt on each other, and what they're going to end up doing. My suspicion is that what's going to happen is that through some series of events, these schools are going to start pointing the finger at each other, and I just think that there's going to be an awful lot of revelation, so to speak, regarding corruption and so forth, or cheating, maybe the better word, not corruption, but because Michigan's not the only school who's violating rules. Now they may be the only ones doing this particular thing, but I have a feeling like any school that's seriously competing for a national title is doing something against the rules. That's just my opinion. It might be, helping the students get better grades. It might be paying students more money than they're supposed to get when they're recruiting them. I mean, whatever it is. But I feel like any school that's seriously competing for a national title is, in some form or fashion, breaking the rules somewhere.
Yeah.
And I really feel like this Michigan story has the potential to unravel a lot of that across the board, and not just between Ohio State and Michigan, but also across the board in the SEC and in the PAC and everywhere. ACC. Any school competing for a national title is doing things like this.
When you say things like this, what
that's a generic term that means just doing something against the rules.
Yeah. Okay. That I can agree with.
Yeah.
But
but
there's a but there.
Okay.
And I've talked about this on a live show a couple live shows ago. What has got, and we were told this, and we reported it 3 or 4 nights ago. All the days are running together, but what has got people really hot about this, really hot, the coaches, really hot. Like, I don't know if you saw when Walters, the head coach of Purdue, and Jim Harbaugh went to shake hands.
I did not see that.
Walters just completely dismissed him. The reason why this is so bad in the eyes of the coaches is because if you're cheating, like if you've given, an extra bag of NIL money, like all these other cheating schemes that goes on in Big Ten. This one includes the safety of the players. Like, if the other team knows exactly what you're doing, you've just increased my student athletes' chances of getting injured way more than your student athletes are going to get injured. If Michigan's the only school that's doing in-person scouting, if I call a run to the right side of the field, let's say the right short side of the field, off tackle run, and suddenly, and there's film of this, suddenly Michigan sends both their safeties down before the snap of the ball to cover that play, the running play off tackle, leaving the middle of the field wide open, nobody back there, because they know exactly what I'm doing. You've just increased the chance of my running back getting injured above the normal play in college football. That is what coaches are so pissed off about. Because if you accumulate all these snaps, all these plays, all these games, the last 3 seasons, you've just increased your opponent's chances of those student athletes getting injured. That's what's, and all this other cheating stuff, it's hard to figure out if any other cheating scheme increases the chances of the opponent getting injured. That's what got people, that's what the coaches are pissed off more than any other thing on this scandal.
Right, okay. Well, shifting gears real quick, just one final thought on the main story about the SEC. I think that if it turns out that they do get North Carolina and Virginia along with Clemson and FSU, I think the strategy there is that the idea is that if they get North Carolina and Virginia, that the Big Ten won't go into those markets and take, a Virginia Tech or an NC State or even a Duke, I guess. And I just wonder if the Big Ten would have the fortitude to say, you know what, we don't care if these are, little brother schools. We still want to get into those states. I think that part of the SEC strategy here is a little bit of a roll of the dice that says, if we get these two schools, North Carolina and Virginia, that's going to keep the Big Ten from going into those states.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just think that would be a mistake on the Big Ten's part, because I'll tell you what, I think NC State and Virginia Tech are fine schools.
Oh yes, yeah.
And if that's the attitude, I hope it's not. I really hope that they don't have that attitude and that they won't be blocked out in those states if they have an opportunity to move. So, anyway, that's all I had, Greg. I appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for the call. Thank you so very much.
Talk to you later.
All
Bye-bye.
right. I don't know. And this is a I'm just going to show you this short little tweet. Whoops. What am I doing? Michigan could threaten legal action if punished by the Big Ten. This is by Matt Fortuna. But what should scare both parties is the idea of a former player elsewhere filing a lawsuit from injuries he said he suffered from Michigan. All it takes is one player to come out and say that he still has aches from a hit he suffered during the game against Michigan, a game that is now believed many to have been compromised, and a game in which a Wolverines defender got a running head start during a hit on said players. This is what people are talking about. Not just this Inside Zone article. We talked about it 4 or 5 nights ago. This is what is the most explosive issue behind this in-person scouting scandal. You've just increased the opponent, student athletes getting injured, and the coaches are hot about it. Look, I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, whoa, Greg, you shouldn't say that. But Jim Harbaugh's name is absolutely mud right now. I've said this before. Michigan was Michigan before Jim Harbaugh. Michigan's going to be Michigan after Jim Harbaugh. They are a fantastic school, a huge brand, a powerful brand, successful brand. This Jim Harbaugh cult of personality. Man, oh man. And it doesn't matter if Jim Harbaugh did not know anything about it. He should have known about it. How could he have not known about it? And then the actions and the words of Michigan so far, since all this reported evidence has come out, I'm looking forward to the Michigan response to Big Ten's notice that something's going to be coming down the pipe pretty soon here. Opie, I'm just getting here and gotta leave as well, so I will have to go back and start later, but I hear you saying 65 cats in this operation. This telling me other schools will be involved. Gotta go. Greg Flugar, many blessings to all. Thank you, Opie, for your generosity to this channel. Thank you so very much. 65! Now, I don't know what you mean, Opie, by saying other schools involved in this operation. Other cats. Other schools. I don't know, man. That's huge. 65 is so many people. So, Opie, thank you for bringing that up again. Let me just say this again. 65 people involved in this operation, and no other Michigan assistant coach knew about it. Maria, the moderator who rules with an iron tongue, are you going to sing today, my boy? No, I don't think so. Maria, I'm busy right now, honey. We're talking important matters. I cannot be singing. If I sing, I'm going to drive everybody out of the chat. even though I regularly sing on this channel. Look, 65. 65. I'm going to ask, Matt, Pete Thamel won't touch the AP report because the AP report is nothing. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. Maybe there's more of the story, but the absolute was void of any interesting information at all. It did not talk about in-person scouting. It talked about stealing signs. Everybody steals signs. That is not what's that. The AP article, go read it again. It's not worth, there is nothing there. At least not right now. Absolutely. Yes, breaking news. Schools steal signs. In-person scouting, filming your future opponent. Pete Thamel shouldn't be touching it. There's nothing there. Let me get back to Opie's thing here. There's something we got to talk about here. Let me take a drink of water. There's something we got to talk about that I haven't talked about on this show yet in regards to this. 65 associates that were involved. Remember, Jim Harbaugh, the head coach, was suspended. He wasn't at the start of the season, right? He wasn't the head coach, right? I don't know which order it was. I don't know if the first game, the defensive coordinator was the head coach, and the second game, the offensive coordinator or the head coach. I don't know how it worked. But they traded out being the head coaches. Jim Harbaugh wasn't on the sidelines. Connor Stalions is sitting there telling the offensive coordinator, who at one point was deemed the head coach of that game. Connor Stalions is telling him all this stuff. The defensive coordinator is being told all this stuff. Found Connor Stalions all this information of the hand signs that he got from in-person scouting. So those two guys, are you telling me there were 65 associates plus Connor Stalions, that all this information was in a Michigan computer accessed by, this has been reported on, if the reports are true, accessed by assistant coach staffs in Michigan, and nobody else knew about it? Are you telling me that Connor Stalions is a rogue element? He got on the Central Michigan sideline with a Central Michigan hat and a shirt. I wear my sunglasses at night. He's sitting there, and he got there all alone with no help. Nobody knew about it. Why do 65 associates, why do you need 65 for something if you're not trying to cheat? Exactly. If this was something that you could legally do, why not just hire a person, right? Full time, give them benefits, send them off, they go scouting. 65 people, different people. That is enormous. Over 40 different games. Who knows how many games? Who knows how big this is? Now, for those who sent me a
call from
PSU Nitwit.
PSU Nitwit, can you just hold for 1 second?
Sure.
For those who sent me the or have looked at this video that was sent to me in regards to the potential Connor Stalions being at a Western Michigan sideline, I'm going to show the video, but I got to tell you something. I cannot see anything. So I'm going to play the video. It's 1 minute and 1 second long. PSU Nitwit, can you hold for a minute while I play this video on the screen?
Sure.
Thank you so much. I'm going to play this video. It was sent to me on Twitter. It's titled, "Was Connor Stalions on the Western Michigan Sideline?" It says, Western Michigan coach thinks unknown staffer is Michigan's Connor Stalions. I got to be honest with you. I can't see a thing. Let me, it's playing right now. I got the volume off. You can't even see anything. It was a Friday night game, Western Michigan playing at Michigan State. The video is so bad that I don't know how anybody can. He's got on different colored shoes. I don't know. I'm going to turn that off. It's terrible. It's a terrible video. So I'm going to have to punt on that one. Okay, PSU Nitwit, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, sir?
Hey, Greg, great show. I mean, get yourself some energy drinks, man, because this is crazy.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Hey, I just wanted to call in. Sometimes in this business, you take an L, and I took an L. There was a channel out there, some things I was looking at that said something was going to happen in 48 hours, and it didn't. So I'll take that L and I'll own it. But I have to say, like, I can't imagine that the Michigan Board of Regents and the leadership, a lot of things that were being reported, and that's what I was going on, there's some people that aren't happy with this. And I'm trying to understand. It's kind of like I've got fuzzy blinders on because I'm seeing all these Michigan, and obviously that AP thing was a Michigan thing. I'm seeing all these Michigan kind of reports out there, but I keep going back to it. It was the same thing that happened in other scandals. There's people on the board that are not happy with this, and I don't understand how that's not translating into what the president's doing. The action between, like, his response back to the Big Ten was surprising to me. A lot of people are saying, well, he's just saving face, the president of the Michigan, but that is, in this era of college football, that is arrogance.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're telling your Big Ten conference, and all of this is lining up, like we said from the beginning. Hey, who has been involved in this at the beginning? The Big Ten. They notified Michigan State. They have been involved since the beginning, and all that Michigan does, I can go down the line. You know, are they addressing this? No.
Yeah.
They had to wait. Yet you didn't get rid of the original staffer that you say was a lone wolf until the Big Ten commissioner came and met with you? What? He didn't resign until after that? And then you have this letter back to the Big Ten saying, hey, if you do this, we're just gonna have a lawsuit. Well, you know what? If the Big Ten and Tony Petitti don't handle this properly, they're just going to have a mutiny on their hands.
Yes, they will.
If that's what you're doing as a Penn State fan, because I've already listened to some of James Franklin's conference. Some of his things, some of the innuendos that he throws out there during his press conferences. People are upset about this. Fans should be upset about this. Ohio State fans are upset about this. As you go through all the things that happened, you have to sit here and you think, are you helping your situation?
Yeah.
Because people don't understand. Tony needs to set a precedent. And it's going to be a very big precedent. Tony Petitti has to set a precedent. Who's in charge of this conference, Greg? Is it Michigan or is it the Big Ten? And that's where it's coming.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's the it's 14 universities. Tony Petitti has 14 bosses. I don't think Michigan has anybody in their corner. They're all alone on this.
No.
A great university, a great institution, but they are all alone on this. I'm waiting to hear the response from the president, because now I think he's looking at all the evidence that the Big Ten was given by the NCAA, and so I'm going to wait on ranting on. I'm not going to rant on the fan base. I have given shots to the Michigan bloggers and beat writers because they've done, not all of them, but most of them have done a Tony Altimore Genetics 56 horrific job on this. Just terrible. And so I've given them the elbows, but the Michigan fan base I won't give the elbow on. By the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to give an elbow to another reporters out there. Why? I don't know what's going on with Cover 3 podcast. I don't get it. I have seen this before. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm just going to show you what I tweeted to them just now. It's just, Bud Elliott, I gave my comments on this on Cover 3 podcast, October 26th, explaining why you won't see many coaches speak out against Michigan. Every coach have said, if this is true, it's terrible. And
yes.
And what Bud Elliott is speaking to is somebody gave them the copy of the AP article. The employee said he recently shared documents which showed Wolverine signs and corresponding plays, screenshots. And so I said, did you bother reading the article? It doesn't talk about in-person scouting, doesn't talk about filming opponents, and yes, other coaches have talked about this scandal. I have no idea why it's so difficult for some to just stick with what the story is instead of all this. That AP story, that is a nothing. That is the personification of a nothing burger. That is, now people are just scrambling. Oh, look! No, it isn't even the story. Has nothing to do with what Michigan has alleged to have done. And you've got a guy like Bud Elliott and Cover 3 podcast. They can't figure out the difference in their minds. It doesn't make any sense. None whatsoever.
Yeah, Greg, I've been following that too, and there's been a couple. Like I said, there was one Michigan guy that I was following throughout my time.
Yeah.
Following, and I had to turn it off, and
Yeah.
it goes to credibility. Like I don't understand why they can't separate advanced scouting and technology recording versus stealing signs. I'm struggling.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's not complicated, Greg.
No.
It's not complicated. I guarantee you that Penn State did not go to Minnesota to watch them play Michigan to record their signs.
Yeah.
That is not hard.
Yeah.
It is not hard.
Yeah.
So we need to like I'm glad we have this community. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
All the Ohio State fans that I'm talking to on X, all the Penn State fans, you know what? Let's go get this done.
Yeah.
You know what? don't suspend him. Don't do anything, Big Ten. Let's take care of it on the field. We'll take care of it on the field on Saturday. And then Ohio State can take care of it on the field as well. Because there's a lot of people fed up about it. And it's getting down to coaches. It's getting down to players. All right, Michigan, you come into Happy Valley. Let's see how happy you are when you leave. Greg, I tell you what, it's such an upsetting thing.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you're looking at something that was going on for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And I want to know, after this call, Tony Petitti, are you in charge of this conference? I want you to tell USC, Washington, and Oregon, and UCLA, who's in charge of this conference? Is it Michigan? Or is it the Big Ten? So grow a set, do what you need to do, and you know what? I'd rather have you not do it this weekend. Because I'd rather play Michigan straight up right on the field.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I would.
Greg,
Yeah. Go ahead.
hey, I just wanted to say, great show. I'm calling in.
Appreciate
And
it.
I'm glad we have each other as a community here, and we're talking about
Yeah.
this, and we're hashing this out.
Yeah.
But go Penn State this weekend, and you take care.
Got it. Now, great call by PSU Nitwit, and I understand he wants his Nittany Lions beat Michigan this weekend and everything. And I get it. But if the evidence is there that they did this elaborate in-person scouting, kind of Stalions, and it looks like it's all there. 65 associates. It looks like they've got more evidence than what's been reported on. Remember, 65, that's more evidence than what we've seen. The hammer should come down regardless of what happens in the Michigan State. The Michigan and Penn State game. You know, this has to do with, again, students, football players, safety, integrity of competition. So whatever happens in that game doesn't really affect what should happen in regards to what happens to Jim Harbaugh and the University of Michigan's football program. But I understand, the fan of it all. I know the video wasn't thank you, Wayne Russell. I know the video wasn't very good, but I didn't want to miss a bunch of your show. They showed a steal that looked like CMU. He was in a Western Michigan gear, but no hat or glasses. Is there a picture that someone can DM me? A picture, the steal shot? Who was Western Michigan playing? It was a Friday night game. Just give me more information around the around that video. I'm willing to dig into it, but I need a little bit more information. That video just gave me a headache. But tell me who Western Michigan was playing, the date of the game. Give me a still shot of the guy. Yes, kind of Stalions, signs, guy, build, drawing shoes. Okay, thanks, AR. Someone give me a still shot. I couldn't look at that video. I didn't know what I was looking at. Just let me take a quick look, see if I'm getting sent a bunch of stuff here. Man. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Joe Klatt, another guy who just, I don't know what's going on here. Joe Klatt, I'm not going to do his video because I'll get I'll get hammered on the copyright. If Tony Petitti acts too soon on evidence that has not been presented to Michigan or Michigan believes it's not correct, then all of a sudden we're going to be involved in litigation. So bring on the litigation. Bring it on. Let's have litigation. Let's have discovery. If Tony Petitti acts too soon, what if Tony Petitti isn't acting too soon? What if he's acting on a pile of evidence? And what if it's been presented to Michigan? I mean, that's what Tony Petitti's doing. NCAA has given him evidence. He's given it to Michigan. He's told them what is going to happen. Please give me your position. Why? What is this covering up of Michigan all about? Joe Klatt, I love the guy, but again, he's leaning heavily one way. Why? What is going on? Will the Big Ten punish Michigan before the NCAA investigation? Well, they can. Read the bylaw. Doesn't anybody read the bylaws of the Big Ten can. Yes, they can. They can act before the NCAA. You know, we have all these college football reporters talking about the NCAA. Where do they get their power derived from? The Supreme Court's been shutting them down. The conferences should take more control. And now Big Ten, Tony Petitti is about to take more control. Oh, why? Well, what if he does something too soon? Western Michigan coach didn't recognize the science guy with the laminated plate sheet. Send me the article. This is a couple of times I've seen this. Where is the tweet, the article where the Western Michigan coach says, I don't know who that guy was? Please send it to me. Please send it to me. But that's a few times people have said that. And I guess I'm probably going to have to get off the air and take a look at it. Western Michigan versus Michigan State University. Thank you, AAR. When was the date of that game? Was that this year or last year? I don't know. We live in very, very interesting times. I think we're going to close it down for this afternoon. We've been on the air for longer than 2 hours. I want to thank everybody for coming on in to the PATC afternoon. The big story, Holy Smokes Theater, SEC's getting more aggressive, and then of course, Stalions, CMU, facial recognition. It looks like Stalions was at the sidelines, and now the NCAA, the sidelines of Central Michigan Chippewas when they were playing against Michigan State. The NCAA has gotten into the investigation. And then we had breaking news story throughout our live show. Central Michigan, NCAA. Then we've got the Big Ten have given notice to Michigan. Michigan has some evidence. They're going to be talking about trying to build their response back to the Big Ten. They don't know what the punishment's going to be. We're looking at a possible 2-game suspension by Wednesday, by Thursday. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner as we cover this story, the Holy Smokes Theater, ACC, SEC becoming more aggressive, Oregon State, Washington with the Pac-10, the other 10 schools, and of course we go into Week 11 of the college football season, and I can't wait till next year, the expanded playoffs. It's a lot of fun times heading our way here at Peek Around the Corner. So before you leave, please smash that like button. It helps us with the algorithm so very much. Please smash that like button and subscribe to this ever-growing channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified the next time we come on live, which could be at any point. Anytime. It could be tonight, could be early tomorrow morning, it could be Tuesday night, it can be any time, at all. So, until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.